Welcome to Scale the Chaos podcast, where we talk all things contributing to your organization's chaos and dysfunction. I'm Rhonda Lea, founder of Scale the Chaos. Today's guest is Mark Stiving, a pricing expert and advisor who educates and advises companies on value-based pricing. Welcome, Mark. I'm so excited to have you here today.
Thank you, Rhonda. The other thing I want to talk about in terms of who should own pricing,
Yes.
there's two other types of pricing that we should think about, or types of
Uh-huh.
pricing organizations, I'll put it that way.
Okay.
So as we move into a larger company, there's something in well-run companies called a pricing council.
Okay.
Pricing council are the executives of the departments who care about pricing.
Yes. And a lot of times in a lot of organizations, they've called them committees, right? At least where I've worked, they've had pricing committees, which has been similar. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was going to use the word committee to talk about lower level people who are going
Okay.
to implement what we have to decide to do.
Okay.
So the pricing council, these are people who say, we're going to spend money on this software package.
Okay.
We're going to go implement this thing. We're going to change our strategy to this strategy. So these are all the executives. This is your VP of sales, your CFO,
Yeah.
your VP of marketing. These are people who are saying, hey, this is the direction we want to take the company.
Uh-huh.
And then once we've made that decision, there's a lot of work to be done.
Yes,
And so
absolutely.
who's going to do all that work? We need people from marketing. We need people
Yeah.
from product management. We need people from pricing and sales. And so that becomes more of the pricing committee. How do we go do the things we said that we need to go get accomplished?
Yes. I like this idea because it is more collaborative. And this kind of goes back to when you think about ownership, you really need to define for your organization, what does the ownership mean? Does the ownership give you authority or does it really just bestow responsibility? And you could even put this into a racy chart, and that again would be like a whole other podcast topic, right? But does ownership mean that you have decision-making power, definitive decision-making power, or does it mean that you're owning it and so therefore you're going out and you're making it happen, whatever decision was made by those who actually have the decision-making authority? Does that make sense?
It does, but I want to say what you just said slightly differently. And
Okay,
that is that
yes.
somebody has to make the decision.
Yes, somebody does have to make the decision.
Somebody somewhere has to make a decision. And what I would argue is that whoever makes that decision, they might have the authority to make the decision.
Hmm.
But if they make it without talking to all these other
Yes.
departments and having these conversations, then it's just going to create huge chaos inside the company.
Yeah, and I think when you have this conflict of who's going to have ownership, that really to me speaks to the culture of the organization because that tells me that these departments within the organization are not speaking to each other. There's no cross collaboration going on. And so they feel like, oh, if this department owns pricing, that means that my department's going to be left out of all the decisions. So really, when you have this conflict of who owns it, it's a deeper problem of, okay, your teams are not collaborating because somebody is afraid they're going to be left out of the decisions.
Yep, absolutely. Early in my, do you have time for a quick story?
Yes, absolutely. We love stories,
Early in
especially
my,
if they're true.
this is absolutely true, sadly. So early on in my pricing career, when I actually got a job at a company and I'm helping lead pricing, I'm trying to convince the company to spend multiple millions of dollars to buy a new quoting system, a new
Okay.
pricing system.
Uh-huh.
And can I just tell you, I failed miserably. I
Okay.
just did not get it to work.
Uh-huh.
And we ended up hiring, I ended up getting a new boss eventually. And this guy, he smoked like a chimney. I
Okay.
mean, he just constantly smoked. But the good news was every time he went on a cigarette break, he grabbed me and said, Mark, let's go for a walk.
Uh-huh.
And so we would walk and he would talk. And it was just fascinating because he was mentoring me on how to work with people, which trust me, I need a lot of work with. And so
Yeah.
and one day we're out in this walk and he goes, Mark, you failed. And I said, what are you talking about? I failed. I tried. I pushed really hard and they just didn't do what I said. He goes, I don't pay you to try. I pay you to get things done.
Yeah.
You failed. So if I were going to do, this is what I would do. And he demonstrated to me exactly as I look back at what he would do, he would go around and have one-on-one meetings with so many different people in the
Uh-huh.
company, just talking about what are your goals? What are you trying to get accomplished?
Yes.
So a little while later, I left and went to a different company, and I had a chance to push for a new pricing system again. And I followed exactly what he said. It's just like I'm out talking to
Uh-huh.
people,
Yeah.
having great conversations, figuring out what they needed, what their goals were.
Mhm.
And in the end, we were able to be successful. But it's all because we put everybody's
Yes.
requirements in our mind. Even if you go back and say, look, we couldn't do that, they know we heard it. They know we
Yes.
listened to it.
Yeah, and I was consulting with an organization recently, and just before I started working with them, the organization had implemented a new system, but the decision had been made strictly by sales. And I was working specifically within the finance department, and it was crazy because the system did not do what finance needed it to do. It needed it to do some prorating and even calculating some percentages of certain things. And this new system was 100% not able to do it. And I was just floored that in such a huge organization, sales would not even consider consulting with the finance department on such a huge decision. And it was catastrophic to the organization. And I know this isn't specific to our topic, but it's related because everybody needs to be involved. I guess is what we're saying, right? Everybody needs to be involved in the decision, regardless of whether it's pricing or system changes or whatever. What does everybody need? I also like to go around before I start eliminating things. I learn a lot of things when I go around and I say, okay, we've done this, we've done this, we've done this. So as far as I'm aware, we can eliminate this. Is there any reason? Is there anything that I'm missing that could potentially be affected by the elimination of this? And I've been rather surprised by some of the responses that I've gotten. Oftentimes, these responses actually demonstrate that the employees need more education, more training. One time I got a response saying, we don't eliminate printing a hard copy of the invoice because we need to be able to scan it and put it into the electronic document management system. And I was like, are you kidding me? Okay, thank you. That's all I needed to know.
Exactly. Thank you.
Anyways, so yes, absolutely. Go around and make sure that you are taking everybody into consideration.
So let me reiterate what you just said and just make it more generic.
Okay.
Here's what you just said is that
Yes.
on these really big decisions, you need a lot of people to be thinking about it. You
Yes,
need to get a
absolutely.
lot of different input. And so I'm going to flip that back and say pricing and especially pricing strategies,
Hmm.
really big decision. You need a
Yes.
lot of people
Really
to
big
be thinking.
decisions, and sometimes you even need some creativity. Many heads are better than one. I want to talk about this 99-cent pricing. And the reason I want to talk about that is because, and you specifically say, do companies think we're stupid? And what resonated with me was the fact that I have literally thought the same thing. Years ago, I was working in property management. And so I would post up properties that were coming up for rent. And number one thing that I learned very quickly is that in the market, in the current market at the time, if I posted a listing and I did not have many voicemails the next morning, then my price was wrong. I learned that number one. But then the second one was somewhere around, this was again many years ago. So rent was a lot cheaper than it is now. However, so if it was around that $1,000 mark, I would put it at $999, right? And a couple of times I would even put it at $995. Now, some of the strategy was if somebody was going in a search and they were searching for up to $1,000 or whatever, you want to make sure that it's within that search. But I also know that there is some psychological reasoning behind that. So let's talk about that.
Let's talk about that.
Yes.
So first off, let's not talk about $1,000. Let's talk about $10 or
Yes. $10.
$3 or
Yeah.
something like that, at least for now.
Okay. And that's fine. Yes.
Right. And so the reason that 9 cents works is because we typically compare two products. And
Yes.
so we have to subtract two prices. And we are lazy subtractors.
Yeah.
And so we're just going to look at the left hand digits to subtract them. And if I use a nine, I get a lower left-hand digit than if I took it up to the next zero, right? So 59 versus 60, the
Uh-huh.
left-hand digit is now different.
Yes.
So
Yep.
even though I do this for a living, if I were to think to myself, what's the difference between 90 and 79?
Uh-huh.
That's hard to figure out. That actually
Yeah.
takes a lot of mental effort.
Yeah.
It looks like 20 cents or 20 somethings, whatever it
Uh-huh.
happens to be. Turns out it's only 11,
Yeah.
but it looks like 20.
Yeah. And people will often round. They want to round about 20 cents.
So we just look at, and so is this a bad thing? Probably not. When's the last time you looked at the 9 tenths of a cent at a gas
I
station?
know, right? I was actually teaching my son who has had gotten his driver's license in the last year. And I'm like, actually, it's always 1 cent more than it looks.
but but because we typically compare prices,
Mm-hmm.
we're lazy subtractors. It
Yes.
makes a lot of sense to use the nine.
Uh-huh.
Now, here's one of the places where it's used a lot. I'm going to put a new jacket and I'm going to sell it for $400.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to put it on sale for $299.
Yeah.
That's like a great sale.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But if it was $399 on sale for $299,
Yep.
nowhere near as good a sale.
Yep. Only a difference of $1 too.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And so we've just become these lazy subtractors. We don't use the right hand digits if the left hand digits are different.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now that we've learned this is that that has to do with the cost of thinking argument,
Uh-huh.
which is
Okay.
perfectly legit because most
Yeah.
of the time we don't make a mistake when we just subtract left hand digits.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so now that we've become ingrained to that and we see sales going from 400 to 299, we've started to associate nine with a good deal. So we're going to see 499 and say, oh, that's a good deal. That's
Yeah.
even if it didn't come from 700 or something, we just say, oh,
Mm-hmm.
that's a good deal. The other side of that is we see even numbers as high quality.
Oh.
So we see 500 as a high quality product.
Uh-huh.
Back when I did my dissertation, we would walk through shoe stores and the number was about $120. So anything below 120 was a nine price. So you would have 59, 79, 99, 109.
Uh-huh.
Anything above 120 was a round price,
Oh,
120, 150, 200,
okay.
225. Right? I would bet you that if you walk into a shoe store in a mall today, if malls even exist,
They do.
if
I was at one last week.
okay, if you walk into a shoe store at a mall today, there's a price point at which the shoes stop ending in nine and start ending in zeros.
Yes. And now that you
And,
say that, yes,
and
I
so what
can,
happens
yeah.
is we perceive zero prices as being higher quality.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Right now, this is all really unimportant stuff. I mean,
Uh-huh.
fascinating,
It's
but it
fascinating.
doesn't,
Yeah, it is fascinating.
you don't make or break your company on these decisions we're talking.
No, but it is a form of marketing, right? If you're trying to market your product as a higher value, then you would want to use the zero pricing. If you're trying to help people feel better about the pricing, which isn't value pricing, then you use the nine pricing. Because I remember back in the day, I remember the 99-cent store, right? And I remember thinking, everything in here is less than $1. Never mind that there was 7 cents in tax. So it really at 99 cents was really $1.06, right? Because I've seen this anywhere from home pricing, car pricing, to pricing on a menu at a restaurant. Like I've seen this 99 cent, and every single time I think, how do they think that I don't know that's really 15.99 is $16?
Yeah, but the thing is, you didn't round up when you did the subtraction. That's the key.
Yeah.
You could say, am I going to order this dish for 59 or this dish for 70?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't want to pay $20 more.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so what's one thing you wish every business leader understood about pricing strategy?
If that's not super clear at this point in time,
Right.
and that is figure out the value of your product.
Okay. Right.
Value
Yeah.
of your product in the mind of your buyers. That's what matters.
Yeah. Not the value of the product as far as how much did it cost you to produce or procure. Yeah.
Just, in fact, I often tell people I don't care,
Yeah.
right? I don't care what it costs you. It just
Yes.
doesn't matter.
Yeah.
There's a couple times when it matters what the costs are, but not very often.
Yeah.
And
But the
we,
inner operations person is saying, oh, but if it's a low cost and a high, and there's a high margin, it does matter. I want more of those products.
Of course
I
we
know.
do. I'm totally with you.
Yeah.
As we're making decisions on what product should we build, yeah,
Uh-huh.
let's look at those costs.
Yeah.
But the costs aren't driving the
Yeah,
price,
exactly. Yes, you're
right?
right.
The price should be driven by what's my market willing to pay me? What's my
Yeah.
customer willing to pay me? How much value am I delivering to my marketplace?
And it's going to have different values for different customers. So you identify who those prime customers are. They call them the avatars now, right? Who's your prime avatar? Market to them, price to them, because anybody who can't afford it at that prices aren't people you're going to want to work with, anyways.
Yeah, and we start thinking about the product portfolio strategies and good, better, best.
Yes.
And how do I get people who are not willing to pay me as much to still buy from me? And how do I get people who love what I do to pay me a lot of money?
Yeah, exactly. And you can offer them more services, and those are the ones you want to work with more, anyways.
Exactly.
Okay, so are there two or three strategies or tips or tricks that you could give that people could implement today to help improve their pricing strategy or at least their maybe even their mindset?
We didn't go into this very much today, but if
Okay.
I were to give you the single tip, and
Okay.
again, I'm not trying to sell books, but if you bought my book, Selling Value, this is in chapter 4, read chapter 4. Read the whole
Okay.
book, but read
Okay.
chapter. And this has everything to do with what you and I talked about in the meeting a couple days ago,
Okay.
is value tables.
Yes. Okay.
If I could give you one hint, it would be to seriously think about what's the problem that you solve for your customer.
Okay.
And now I know I've done this enough times to know that it's really hard for you to do this.
Yes.
And so my recommendation is go find someone who doesn't know your business
Uh-huh.
and tell them what the problem is that you solve
Yeah. What
and
are the
ask them
pain points, right? What is it that's so painful about your business that makes it miserable?
exactly, exactly. So just to give an example, right? Let's pretend that I make a product that organizes papers, right?
Uh-huh.
It's
Yeah.
a paper stacker. I don't know.
Yeah.
It
Okay.
organizes papers. Doesn't matter what it is. And I asked someone, well, what problem does that solve?
Mhm.
The problem is my papers are unorganized.
Yes.
I'm going to tell you that's not a problem,
Right.
right? Who cares
Because
that your
you're
papers
like,
are?
okay, why is that a problem? Why is it a problem that your papers are disorganized?
And so if you say to me, oh, what problem do you solve? I waste a ton of time every day looking for the right document at
Yes.
the right time. And if only I could find it quickly, I'd be so much more productive.
Yeah. Yeah. So you identified the problem and also what you needed. If I could identify the paper quickly, I'd be more productive.
Okay, so I cheated there, didn't
Yeah.
I? Um,
I learned
I
that from this guy that I was listening to on Saturday.
yeah. So what I did was I identified the problem, and then I also gave you the result in the same sentence.
Uh-huh.
And
Yeah.
normally, what I
Yes.
would do is I would break out the problem, and then I
Uh-huh.
would break out the
The
result.
result. Yeah.
And by the way,
Well,
that would be my
yeah.
tip number two: is after you really know what the problem is, can you identify the result? And even better, can you put a number on it?
Yeah.
So in the example that we just made up, by the way, I've never done this example. I just made that up on the fly.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so if it's horrible, sorry.
No, it's
Um,
very generic, very, yeah, very simple to understand.
okay. But if I wanted to quantify it, I might say, so my problem was I'm disorganized. I can't find the documents I need when I need them. I waste a ton of time.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's the result? The result could be 4 times a day, I look for documents. On average, it takes me 15 minutes to find it. And so if I could get that down to a minute per document, I just took an hour down to 4 minutes. So I
Yep.
save essentially 56 minutes a day.
Yep.
We just
And then you
quantified
calculate,
the
yeah,
result.
quantified by how much does that hour 56 minutes cost you?
That's the last one.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
And that is the value
Uh-huh.
column in the value table. And one of the things you heard me say, and I don't know how much you appreciated this, but I love this statement. And that
Okay.
is in the world of B2B, all value is measured in incremental profit.
Yes. I did
And,
love that.
and so if you are selling to a company, the only thing they really care about is how much more money are you making them.
Yep.
And so if you can't take your paper sorter device and turn
Mhm.
that into here's how much money I'm going to make you, then they don't want to buy it from you.
Okay, so thanks for joining me today, Mark. This has been so much fun. If anybody out there is interested in Mark's books, check them out for more strategies and insights on pricing. And where can they find your books, Mark? I know that you're not selling them, but if somebody were to be curious and interested in buying one of your books, where could they go?
You can get them on Amazon. Two of them are only available on Amazon, so I would go there.
Okay. Okay. Perfect. And for more information on how you can scale your chaos in your organization, head on over to my website, scalethechaos.com. You can also find our podcast on scalethechaos.com/podcast. I'm Rhonda Lea. We'll chat more next time.